It's day one of Prime Minister Modi's landmark visit to the United States. Air India One touched down at the St. Andrews base in Maryland early in the morning. He was welcomed by senior officials of the Biden administration and India's envoy to the United States, Taranjit Singh Sandhu. In today's itinerary, the Prime Minister will be holding crucial bilateral talks with US Vice President Kamala Harris. That's at 12:45 a.m. Indian Standard Time. Before that, Prime Minister Modi will be meeting the top 5 CEOs in Washington, including QUALCOMM CEO Cristiano R. Amon, ADOBE Chairman Shantanu Narayan, First Solar CEO Mark Winmer, General Atomics CEO Vivek Lal and Blackstone CEO Stephen Schwarzman. The Prime Minister's one-on-one meeting with the CEOs is expected to begin at 7:35 p.m. again Indian Standard Time. It's likely to last an hour with each CEO. After that, the Prime Minister will be holding bilateral talks with the Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison. That's at 11 p.m. tonight.
That's Prime Minister Narendra Modi, who's just arrived here at Hotel Willard. This is where he's staying. Important engagements for Prime Minister Narendra Modi lined up, whether it's the bilaterals or, for that matter, engagement with the business community and the big Quad meeting. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has arrived here at his hotel here, Hotel Willard. That's where he's entering the hotel. That's the tenement that has been built for him for security reasons. The entire area over here has been cordoned off. Nobody being allowed to enter this entire area. If you can see, there are security personnel who've been deployed, police vehicles that have been parked to ensure no movement of vehicles. There's also personnel and people. The entire area was cordoned off till the time Prime Minister Narendra Modi entered this road, this stretch of road, and entered his hotel. So an important visit of Prime Minister Narendra Modi to the United States of America. Lots of engagements, lots of contacts in terms of how he engages the world with regards to important issues, be it counter-terrorism, Pakistan, situation in Afghanistan, regional security, economic cooperation, or for that matter, military alliances with the Quad grouping and the Quad countries. In Washington, D.C., Geeta Mohan for India Today.
Prime Minister's visit to United States has 6 elements, 6 broad elements. So first is, of course, the bilateral meeting with President Biden. Second is the meeting with the Vice President Kamala Harris. Third is the Quad Summit. Fourth is the interactions with Prime Ministers of Australia and Prime Minister of Japan separately. Then there is an interaction with select industry leaders. And finally, there is the UN section.
Prime Minister Narendra Modi is in the United States of America after 6 months of hiatus. A massive security presence outside his hotel. That's Hotel Willard, which is where he stays normally. This time around also, he's staying at this historic hotel, and there is absolute security presence and barricading of the hotel. If you see on the right and the left-hand side, there are these cement huge block barricades to ensure that no cars really pass through this entire lane, this entire road outside of Hotel Willard. There are trucks that are parked right through and through the lane that touches the hotel to ensure that no cars are parked and to ensure that security is absolutely 100% foolproof. On the other side as well, you can see security presence, vehicles and barricading. So no entry into or outside of Hotel Willard unless and until they're checked by security personnel. He's not the only high delegation level official or a leader who's arrived at in the United States of America. We have the Prime Minister of Australia and the Prime Minister of Japan both here in the US, and there are going to be bilateral meetings that Prime Minister Narendra Modi will hold with all his counterparts, including a bilateral meeting with President Biden and Vice President Kamala Harris. There's also an important engagement when it comes to the business community. He's going to meet top business honchos of the country to speak of post-COVID recovery, economic recovery when it comes to India and the United States of America, and how can the two countries move forward. Quad in-person meeting is a very important aspect of his visit. not just to see how to counter China and China's aggressive posturing in the Indo-Pacific, but also to ensure that there's resilient supply chains, and India is key to that entire global supply chain. After which he is going to address the United Nations General Assembly in New York. With video journalist Yogendra Singh in Washington DC, Geeta Mohan for India Today.
Now, the Prime Minister has also ensured Diaspora connect to the United States as always. He received a warm welcome by a group of Indian Americans at the St. Andrews Airport soon after his arrival in Washington, D.C. He stepped out of his motorcade to interact with Indians waiting at the airport despite rains. He also interacted with members of the Indian community who gathered outside the Willard International Community where the Prime Minister is staying. Prime Minister Modi also took to Twitter soon after that warm welcome to commend the Indian diaspora for distinguishing itself across the world, saying that they are the nation's strength. One of the signature events of the Prime Minister's overseas visit has always been his meetings with the diaspora community in large gatherings. This time, however, due to the current COVID situation, the Prime Minister is unlikely to have any such large gathering or meeting with the diaspora, limiting it to these small interactions.
Did you come here knowing that Prime Minister Narendra Modi is arriving and just to get a glimpse of the man?
Yes, kind of, yes. I'm also working with them here. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
And are you excited about the fact that Prime Minister Narendra Modi is in the US?
Yes, I hope he will do something better for our country, so that's why he came here.
Yeah, he's come here. A lot of people hope he should be doing better for the country. But there are many issues, global issues, that concern India and the world. What is your take on Prime Minister Narendra Modi's visit, and how should he engage the world?
Well, as a student, I recognize that it's a monumental time with the issues that's going around the world, especially with Afghanistan and the tremors in the Indo-Pacific. So it's a monumental time, and it's great to be here while the Prime Minister is here.
Also, the concerns that students have with regards to being able to travel to the United States of America. US is opening up a little. Is that a concern that your friends have faced in the past?
Well, it used to be a concern, but especially now, after this government has come in, things have become a lot more easier. So yeah, that's something to look forward to, certainly.
You're here. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has arrived. How excited are you? What do you think India's position when it comes to the as a global power really is? And how do you see Prime Minister Narendra Modi engage the world leaders, including Quad meeting?
I'm very happy and excited that President Narendra Modi ji is in our Washington DC here, and he is such a big leader. Everybody knows around the world, and he's bringing good things for India.
How is it working for the Indian contingent and for Prime Minister Narendra Modi's, official cavalcade?
Yeah, so like I said before, this is my third time, and every time it's an honor, and I look forward to this meeting especially. I mean, the changes that have taken place in Afghanistan, I'm sure it's going to be a big talk about that with President Biden. And so, yeah, it's great to, work with him.
The first ever in-person Quad Summit is all set to take place in the White House on Friday. And ahead of the crucial Quad Summit, Prime Minister Modi will be holding standalone bilateral meetings with Japanese Prime Minister Yoshihide Suga, Australian Prime Minister Scott Morrison and US President Joe Biden. The agenda of the meetings will be to counter China's growing influence in the Indo-Pacific region. Beijing's military presence and political influence in the Indo-Pacific region pose a major threat to India, to Japan and Australia and the United States. Prime Minister Modi's meeting with Quad leaders is being seen as a move towards tackling China's aggression and a commitment to a free and prosperous Indo-Pacific region. The Quad group is an informal strategic dialogue with 4 members, with India, Japan, Australia and the United States.
This is where Prime Minister Narendra Modi will hold bilateral meeting with President Biden, followed by the big Quad meeting, the first in-person meeting of Quad leadership that will take place at the White House. Primarily, the focus is going to be how to ensure that China and Chinese aggression is contained in the entire Indo-Pacific region. There are many areas that will be covered when it comes to alliances, but also the focus will remain counter-terrorism, post-COVID recovery is also supply chain resilience. These are very important aspects, but terrorism and the situation in Afghanistan certainly are going to be key. President Biden has been criticized for having withdrawn troops very hastily from Afghanistan, and the focus now shifting to another theater, that's the Indo-Pacific. But the fact of the matter is that for India, for Australia, for Japan, for many other countries, security situation in Afghanistan is a huge concern. There is the white flag that flutters in every building, atop every building in Afghanistan, but there are certain people over here who still are keeping the tricolor of Afghanistan flying high. That's the Afghan flag. This is a tenement that was that first started as a protest site to protest nuclear war or nuclear arms race. That was in 1978, and it became a permanent structure in 1981. Is that a message that you still want, and people over here still want, an inclusive Afghanistan?
I don't want that with you being next door to Pakistan and Afghanistan only being one more nation away. I don't want that to influence a nation of 1.4 billion people on this planet.
Well, that's a citizen of America, a concerned citizen, saying that India, being next door neighbor, should not be influenced by what Pakistan is doing. Speaking of Pakistan, will certainly come up when Prime Minister Narendra Modi meets the leaders of Quad, as also President Biden. Video journalist Yogendra Singh in Washington, D.C., right outside White House, Geeta Mohan for India Today.
There are a number of issues that will turn up in the discussions. Considering the timing of this Quad Summit meet, it's happening amid a pandemic. The number one priority will be a discussion on the COVID-19 response, on vaccines collaboration as well, and ensuring all the countries work together in defeating COVID. Resilient and reliable vaccine supply chains will also be brought up in the discussions between the world leaders. Connectivity and infrastructure between India, Japan, Australia and the United States. Emerging technologies is also on the agenda in this Quad Summit meet. Now, beyond that, climate change, addressing climate change, so climate action, as well as cooperation at the front of education and how times have changed amid a pandemic, that too will be discussed in great detail in this first in-person Quad Summit meet. And India Today's Anjana Om also tried speaking to the National Security Advisor Ajit Doval, who's accompanying Prime Minister Modi on his US visit. While he didn't offer any comment, remember that he's part of this high-level delegation in America.
यहाँ हम लोग इस बार आपके इंटरव्यू की उम्मीद में आए हुए हैं। इस बार हम लोग सिर्फ आपके इंटरव्यू की उम्मीद में आए हुए हैं। I think security will be a